Every once in a while, these hardworking staff over at the academy need a break. Not even a look over there. Let's see who it is. Well, these hardworking staff need a break. Well, so then they have things in the calendar that say break on them. But the way the academy works, the way that school works, is that they, during the breaks, have to mobilize vans and buses in almost every direction to take students to drop-off locations where parents can then gather and retrieve their students. And so we came up with this bright idea as pastors. Hey, why don't we help give our teachers a break and volunteer for one of those breaks to drive one of the vans so that the teachers can really have a break instead of having to drive and on their time off. Well, a couple of years ago, we came up with this idea, and it was accepted. The idea was accepted by the academy, and I got assigned the trip to Durango. Fantastic group of students. We'd go down through Colorado Springs and down through Pueblo and across. Beautiful drive. I did it, and so when it came time to volunteer again, I said, well, that's a drive I know. You do it again. So just a couple of months ago, I load up the van. We head off for break with a group of students. We're headed down to Durango. We've got all these drop-off points along the way. And we get down to Durango, and everybody heads home with their families. It's great. What you do as the driver, you hop a flight back and just fly into Denver. And then you get to spend a couple of days before flying back to Durango to pick up the van and the students and driving back. Well, I'm in this airport, and if you've been to the Durango airport, you can appreciate just the beauty of that airport. It's a little bit of just a little establishment kind of on a rise above Durango, and you go into the airport, and it's not too complicated. It's kind of a go in and go out the gate. That's kind of what constitutes the airport. But between the gate and the entrance is a gift shop on the right and a little restaurant, a little mom and pa place on the left, a little restaurant that you can order something. And I'm flying out early in the morning, so I'm going to get a bagel, and I go into this restaurant. There's only one person that works. The same person that takes your orders, the one that goes back and makes the food. Fine by me. Well, there must have been a shift change or some sort of change, because there's two women in there this time, and one is saying, yes, I'm getting off now. I'm going to go, and the other said, okay, I'll take over. And then they start talking about a burden that one of them had on their hearts and saying, I want to pray for you, and I'm going to be praying for you. And I'm standing there waiting for service. They're not in any sort of hurry, and I'm not too much of a hurry either, so I just kind of listen to their conversation. And God shows up as they're talking about prayer for this burden on their heart. God shows up and says, Michael, why don't you just take a step forward and ask if you can pray with them? Well, I said, God, I don't want to interrupt. That'd be rude, and Christians aren't rude. Can't do it. I don't want to be rude. And so I'm wrestling with myself, because I know what God's saying back to me. He's like, come on, you're making excuses. No, I'm trying to be reasonable, God. You're making excuses. And there's this little back and forth, right? The good and the bad angel sitting on my shoulder. And eventually the second woman leaves, and I order my bagel. When that second woman leaves and walks out of the restaurant, I hear God almost audibly in my head sigh. I just hear it. And it just troubles me. And then the thought comes, it wasn't that I didn't want to interrupt them, it's that I didn't want to be interrupted. And I can't argue with that. You're right, God, I'm sorry. I want to do differently next time. All right, so I fly back. I'm here at church, and our friend and church member here, Stephanie Carlson, comes up to me and hands me a book. She said, this is a great book. You've got to read it. I love good book recommendations. And she hands it to me, and I have to ask the question. I say, Stephanie, what do I do when I'm done with this book? Because I need to know. Do I return it? And she says, read it and keep it or pass it on. That's all she says. Read it, keep it, or pass it on. Okay? So then Sunday comes, I grab the plane, fly to Durango in preparation for a Monday morning return. I'm sitting on the plane Sunday night, And it's a short flight, but it's a two-seater and a one-seater. It's a two and a one. I'm sitting with the two. We're in the front of the plane. We're right next to the flight attendant. And there's a woman sitting next to me, and I'm just reading this book, Wild Encounters, or Encountering a Wild God, by Kim Meter. She's built and organized, directed a horse ranch out in Oregon for troubled situations. And she's got a great Christian ministry out there. She's a great speaker and author. But I'm reading her book. I gotta encounter this wild God, right? We land, and as soon as we land, and they say, "Welcome to Durango," the thought hits me, oh, Durango, that's right. That's where I didn't pray with a person. That's where I failed God's invitation to love on the world around me. And with that Durango, I say, all right, God, so what can I do differently? And I'm reading this book, and I read the words from Kim Meter. She says, life should be about praying, then listening, and then acting. So I pray, God, is there a way I can be a blessing to somebody? And I just sit there. Why don't you ask the person next to you a question? They haven't said anything to me. I haven't said anything to them. Okay, fine. Are you coming home, I said? She said, well, kind of. Texas is my real home, but I've lived up here for like a decade, but I just flew down to bury my brother. He died in a workplace accident, leaving 2 children and a young wife. She said, so that's really home, but this is kind of my second home. I said, wow, tough. And she begins to cry next to me. And so I bow my head. I said, Lord, what do I do? And in that moment, I hear Stephanie's voice in my head, and it says, read the book, keep it, or pass it on. It's clear as day. I'm supposed to pass this book. I said, ma'am, don't get too creeped out here, but someone gave me this book for you. It's for you. I slipped my business card in it, handed it to her, prayed, got off the plane. I'm walking through the little airport, and it doesn't take very long, as you know, but I'm walking through the little airport, and I'm telling you, I heard it. This is exactly what God said. Michael, that's the way it's done. I was passing the very restaurant where just a couple of days earlier I'd heard God sigh. He'd met me right back in Durango and said, I want to talk to you about how you live your life and what priorities you make.